Alrighty, we are at 150 rows, and so what that means is we have reached this point where we're going to do 2.5 more rows in order to, we're going to do 2.5 more inches, whatever that is at 12, that'd be 24 plus 6, 30 more rows to do 2.5 inches and form it into ribbing. So I want to mark it as I did before so that I know where to drop down to in order to form the ribbing back up, okay? But let's look at what we've got. Here's the first little 3/4 of an inch. That's the rolled, let's look close, okay, closely. That's the little rolled collar. Isn't it clever? And it's just stocking stitch because stocking stitch rolls. And then here's the ribbing that I did earlier today. Then here's where we transition into just the stocking stitch. Now, this has got a little bit of a fold to it. And in a perfect world, I would flip this back and forth, and we'll practice sometime, and we would do a few rows of garter stitch right here. Is this transition garter stitch is where you knit on one side, then you knit on the other, and then you knit on the first side, then you knit on the second. In order to do that on a machine, unless you have a garter stitch machine, which you don't probably, you have to flip the knitting. Just like you do when you're hand knitting. You knit, 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 knit. You get to the end, you turn the knitting over, knit, 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 knit. You turn the knitting over. You have to do that on here. We're not going to do that with this, okay? But that would be the way that I would solve this little bit of a crink where it goes from the ribbing into the stocking stitch. We'll block it out, and Trixie the dog doesn't care. Then we have, let's back up again. Then we have some of the stocking stitch, and then we have where I ran out of the yarn, and so we did the change, and there's that, okay? So there's where we're weaving it in, all right? And I may tidy this a little bit right there, but that's simply done, okay? And now we are getting ready for the last 30 rows before I go home. I'm at my studio. And we'll have the fun task of looking forward to making ribbing again tomorrow. So this is ravel cord. And I'm going to use something that actually contrasts this time with the knitting. And so let's find the end. There it is. Don't cut it. It can just hang down there because you're going to need long ravel cord, and you can use long ravel cord as short ravel cord, whereas you cannot do the opposite. All right, so we got this violet red. We're going to put our regular yarn in. We're also going to put the ravel cord in. I'm going to kick the tension up, in other words, bigger stitches by a notch. I will comment that I took this from that was at a 7. I took it down to a 6 because this yarn is a little bit thinner, okay? So just watch what you're doing. One of the things that I really like about these machines is that it's slow enough to where you can pay attention and fast enough to where it's pretty cool, all right? So we're ready for this first stitch. I'm going to reset. Well, I thought, hang on, I went to 1,000,000 or something. Okay, so I'm reset to 0 because I need to go for 30 rows. The first row of that's going to have this ravel cord in it to mark where I'm going to drop down to in order to make more ribs tomorrow, okay? So across we come, steady Freddy. Once it's caught it, you don't need to do all that clipping, except just to get it out of the way. But take my word for it, these cords will come right out if they can. Okay, so now we've got a row that has the actual knitting yarn and ravel cord in it. We just want that out of the way. And I will use the little clover clip cheap clever clip, fake clever clip again to hold it back there. And go under, okay? Don't forget to go under the tooth of that first sinker. There's row 2. Row 3. Row 4, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to knit to row 30. Then I'm going to stop and go home. Tomorrow, I will be dropping stitches and latching back up, just as I did here. And I'll do it on the same pattern. Not that anybody's going to notice from the neck of the dog to the tail of the dog whether I match, but it's good practice to, just keep yourself straight on that kind of thing. So I'll be doing exactly what I did here. And then we will be casting or binding off, depending on which term you use. They're both correct. And I'll show how to do that. All right. So I will finish doing this tonight, but I will talk to y'all again tomorrow.